past few days, coupled with the High Court order from Bulawayo, which also set aside the nomination of CCC candidates, we are seeing that this election is unique in its own way because it is being played out in the courtrooms. The judiciary has usurped the people's power to decide who to lead them. The fate of the country has now been captured by a few individuals who have taken it upon themselves to twist the law and apply it unevenly in such a manner as to prejudice and deprive the majority of Zimbabweans of their right to vote, which is enshrined in the Constitution. It is all the more sad regarding the history of this country, where we come from, how this right for one man, one vote was attained through the blood of the many sons and daughters of our nation who died in the bushes, who died outside of the country, to ensure that each and every one of us is entitled to their vote.
It's high time, comrades, we make sure that we whip this old guy, this old man, to lie. He must know that Zimbabwe belongs to everyone, not to himself. We are all Zimbabweans. We are tired of being abused each and every time. He's the one who appoints judges. He's the one who appoints the commissioners of the police, the generals from the army and everything. And he is using that opportunity to abuse other Zimbabweans. Yes, he is the leader at the moment, but you should allow competition. Let people choose their best presidential candidate for the betterment of our country.
Hello, hey everybody, welcome to Rumbi Uncensored, our broadcast. This is definitely your home. I want to say to you guys, to everyone who's subscribed for the past few days, I thank you because it has been an influx of love from your end, and I'm so thankful. Really, I'm thankful. And for my regulars, the people that have been with me since day one, yo, I just want to say to you, amazing. It is such an honor, guys, that you keep on showing me love and just walk this journey with me. And it means a lot. I'll never take that for granted. And I just want to say, stick around because we're going to have quite a number of things that are going to go down here. By the way, most of you don't even know that I'm actually a chef. So I do cook as well. I am a chef. I'm a motivational speaker. So I'm going to give you quite a lot of love from here, from me. And if you're a lady, stick around. I'm going to show you how to cook. Also, I love fashion as well. I'm going to walk through that with you, doing quite a number of vlogging there and there. And please stick around. It's going to be fun. All right. So we're back in the building and we are looking at such a very sensitive matter. But because Zimbabwe lately, there's always been meetings in the court. I mean, across the board, political parties, because we know we are almost to the day of election. So pretty much the temperature is very high. A lot is happening. But I wanted you guys to take a listen to what Sevia Kasukuru had to say regarding the issue of our constitution.
There's still a process before that can be concluded. And this is what my team has done. The legal team, I've instructed them to take my matter up with the Constitutional Court of Zimbabwe. And they've already written, we filed our papers yesterday, and we've also sought an urgent hearing by the Constitutional Court, because this really is at the heart of democracy. When you deny a citizen his rights to participate freely in the elections, which come, by the way, every 5 years, it then is a matter of grave concern. And this is why we've had to take this matter up.
Yeah. So the High Court judge, in barring you from the election, ruled that you had been out of Zimbabwe for 18 months or longer. And because of that, you were not living in the country, and that has been the reason given as to why you cannot contest in these presidential elections. That's what they're saying, that by law, you could not stand as a candidate. How are you going to fight that if that is the law?
No, first and foremostly, this pertains to an electoral law that defines the process of how one can be barred from contesting. One, it must be from your constituency. A member in your constituency, a voter in your registered constituency, shall take that matter up with the constituency register. And the process is then started, which will allow you also to be heard. You have a right to administrative justice to be heard. But in this case, the High Court judge, I think what I would call judicial overreach, decided to go beyond his own normal call of duty. Remember, the nomination court itself, ZAC, is headed by a High Court judge who is almost at the same level. In fact, they're at the same level with the High Court. So we would have expected that if there is any complaint, one, it has to go to the Electoral Court, which shall therefore carry out the processes as defined in our laws, not a situation where just one person decides to carry out a process, have an election without choices. This is what we're dealing with. So the High Court judge indeed had the judicial overreach. It's not his duty to do that.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's very sad because, you know, we are doing a lot of talking and there's a lot of complaining, but there isn't, there's resistance from the other end where people are not willing to hear each other and say, let's find solutions, let's sit around the table. But no, this is quite very scary because when I've been trying to dig deeper and get to understand what, you know, what ZANU-PF is all about in terms of the political party, how it started and what's really going on in the party that is becoming a challenge to most of us as Zimbabwean people, because whether we like it or not, ZANU-PF is the ruling party. So which means they're driving the ship. And we are at the mercy of their driving strategy. Whether it's right or it's wrong, we are falling victims because we are just in this train. We have no clue where it's going. And it is so extremely slow. We are trying to speak to the drivers. We've tried the conductors and all other people who are working in there in the train, but we seems not to get no help at all, right? Yes, which is quite very scary. So I was actually listening to an interview that Professor Jonathan Moore had on SABC, and astoundingly so, but because he was asking about the patriotic bill, and I just want you guys to take a listen to what he is saying. Then I'll be able to give you my own personal analysis. Go ahead.
A mischief which is uniquely Zimbabwean and in Zimbabwean politics, that somehow compatriots end up saying, I'm better off if I go and talk to the US Senate and tell them that Zimbabwe is doing ABC, take measures. Zidera is a product of Zimbabweans working in cahoots with the Americans to impose sanctions. And then our colleagues will say, you are giving us powers that we don't have. You think we can get... And yet the Americans, on the other hand, they don't want to be seen to be waking up on their own and say, we are taking this law. When they argue in their Congress why they've taken Zidera, they say, we have been asked to do this. We've been approached to do this, and they produce volumes and volumes of compatriots making representations about their situation in Zimbabwe. I just think, no matter how difficult an internal situation can be, the idea of people then going out there to seek support, to work in cahoots, it really should not come to a point where there's a feeling of coming up with a law. And I understand why colleagues in neighboring countries like South Africa, Zambia, Malawi, and so forth, Mozambique, they don't understand this because in their countries, no one does that. No one does that. These oppositions that have been successful in the region are homegrown nationalist oppositions. It's difficult to fault them because they are coming from the same fountain, speaking the same language with those they seek to depose. And this is the difference. So this thing is not doing what it is alleged to do. It seeks to deal with this unique mischief you don't find in any country, but you find in Zimbabwe. And I understand why others elsewhere, they don't understand. Why should it become necessary to come up with this law? Well, yeah, you will not understand it because your political opposition doesn't behave like that.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So he's talking about it's only in Zimbabwe where people have to go outside and seek some intervention. And he mentioned about the issue of the sanctions, where he's claiming the opposition went and asked for sanctions. This is what I'm going to say, Mr. Jonathan Moyo. It's time for Zimbabweans to introspect. That's all I'm going to say. And let me tell you why I say it's time for you to introspect. I can only imagine in a situation where the kids are being abused in a home. So when they go and approach the neighbor, say, please, we need help in the home. And if they don't get help, what do? They move to the next higher rank, right? And even to a point where they go to the police. And when the father is arrested, then the father starts complaining that my kids disrespected me because now I'm in prison. You need to remember that Zimbabweans don't only talk. Right now, as we speak, almost 5 to 6 million Zimbabweans are not in the country, seeking for survival. Do you need any other country to come in and tell you that the situation is not right in the country? You know. But if you don't act, it means it's a choice not to take an action, correct? So don't get surprised when people are now approaching individuals out of the country seeking for help. It's because you are not doing anything about some of our challenges in the country. That's what I was saying, that you introspect before you start blaming people. What is it that we are not doing right that we can resolve? The problem is the system that you guys have built, the system of ZANU-PF is actually not, I call it diabolical. It has nothing to do with leading a country. It has everything to do with self-enrichment. So it's more like a gangsterism, because to me it's like, are you leading the people? Because the people you claim to lead, you're disregarding them. You seem to be having like a few people. So let's say it's a community of 20. You can be dealing with 2 people, and to you it's your leadership, but you're disregarding the feelings of the 18. So as we stand in Zimbabwe, majority of Zimbabwe, almost 80% of Zimbabweans don't want you. That includes people, maybe, among the 20%, they may be benefiting from you, but they don't want the way that you're running the country. Truth be told, I don't think that I would call you leaders. I don't call you leaders personally. I just call you're just people holding people at ransom, doing whatever you are doing for your personal gain. And that's why I said I call it gangsterism. It's that group of people who terrorize the masses for their personal gain. It becomes a terror. Don't say this, you can't say that, you can't do anything. You must always do what we want. It's abuse of human rights. It's suffocating destinies, because some of people actually called to speak up. Some people are called to act in a certain manner. It is their calling, and you are suffocating it because you don't understand what purpose is about. You don't understand what calling is about. You know what I mean? So it's always about how you benefiting from the situation. If it goes against your own benefits, then that becomes a problem. So how on earth are we going to fulfill purpose then, if we have to do whatever you want? Because you're not the one who brought us in the world. It's God. And we are accountable to God, not to you. We respect you as a leader because your leadership is temporary. Don't get too comfortable. It's temporary. Because this can lead me to a man that I want you guys to watch, who was crying. I think you saw him literally trending on social media. He was a prime minister. He was, or maybe still is, the prime minister of Niger. You know, Niger, where the coup happened recently, he was crying after the game of 48 hours. Either he's going to account to the funds that disappeared in the country, or he's facing execution by firing squad. Take a listen. All right, guys, this is actually sad, to be honest. I feel for him, but one thing I'll tell you about this kind of people is they will kill so that they can keep their riches, which means there are some people actually lost their lives there. Some people abused when they were speaking up. And you know, it has been happening in Zimbabwe too, is when you say something is wrong, you have to face consequences. It comes with a cost. right, is the culture we need to get rid of. For us to restart, that culture needs to be assassinated for good, where we have to be normal people again. Completely agree with that man who was saying Zimbabwe is an abnormal space. I agree with him. Because the way people are living life and the way people act, especially the people that are in leadership spaces, is definitely out of order. And it can never be. It can never be respected. I can tell you the truth.
Your message, Zimbabweans, the voters.
They must never despair. They must continue to fight for their country and reclaim it from kleptocracy and the criminality that has hijacked Zimbabwe. We want the Zimbabweans to fight to take over their own country back. We want the international community to lift the sanctions and let's get Zimbabwe to work again. These people who are saying they are Zimbabweans all over are the ones who should be marching in solidarity with the people of Zimbabwe and demanding free and fair elections in Zimbabwe. This thing of pretentious elections is not going to work, is not going to deliver confidence, the much needed confidence that Zimbabweans need now from the international community to go back and reinvest then to lift the sanctions. The Zimbabweans must never despair. They must continue to fight and fight for their country. One day they shall know the real peace and freedom.
And let me just tell you guys, you nailed it. We have to free ourselves. So my brothers and sisters, we can't escape. There's no Messiah that will come. We only have one Messiah, Jesus Christ, that came and save the world. But otherwise, when it comes to our liberty, you and me are going to rise up and make sure that we play our part. Don't forget to adopt polling stations. Make sure that you contribute towards the protection of votes. And also, don't forget, you need to follow Team Pachelu on Twitter, Facebook, as well as TikTok, so that you can get more information and also be updated with some of the steps they will be taking in terms of us to safeguard our 2023 votes. We are getting in here. It's not negotiable. Yes, definitely non-negotiable. Winning is sure. Winning imminent, non-negotiable. And then, like I told you guys, amazing submission there from Julius Marema. You and me must make sure we roll our sleeves and go to work and save our country for our own future, right? Yes. Okay. So one of the men that stood out for me, guys, because am I the only one who feels like Zimbabwe, so many things that are happening abnormal? I personally think they're abnormal.
Surprised with the outcome, but what I'm clear about is that political matters are resolved politically in the ballot box. What we will not accept as a movement is that anyone, whether it's the electoral body or a court of law, can impose candidates on us. The CCC's National Citizens Assembly is sovereign in as far as the selection of its candidates is concerned. The candidates that we pointed out to the court are not CCC candidates, and therefore are not representing the CCC in any form or manner. But we do not live in a normal country, and neither do we have normal institutions. Therefore, we should not expect normal conduct and behavior by those institutions. We assure the people of Zimbabwe that we will present to you who our candidates are, and those are the candidates that we ask you to vote for. Those candidates which were deployed by FAS, those candidates which were deployed by ZANU-PF to come and contest against ourselves, we have got no chance at all on the day of the 23rd of August, 2023.
Guys, let me just tell you, I personally